Welcome to NAFDAC and Your Health, where you get to know about the efforts of NAFDAC at safeguarding the health of the nation, and also know how to stay safe as you patronize the product regulated by NAFDAC. I am Amanda Ugo.
On today's edition of NAFDAC and Your Health, our first focus is on breastfeeding and the open dialogue session held by the Food Safety and Applied Nutrition Directorate of NAFDAC with the infant food manufacturers and marketers in Nigeria on the implementation of the International Code of Marketing of breast milk substitutes. And on the second segment, we'll be featuring highlights from the stakeholders' engagement organized by the Drug Demand Reduction Division of the Narcotics and Controlled Substance Directorate to discuss ways of further combating the menace of drug abuse. Good nutrition is a germane factor to healthy living, not only for adults, but also, and of course, more importantly, for infants, because a good foundation in terms of nutrition helps kids to develop into healthy and intelligent adults. This is why NAFDAC, as a regulatory agency overseeing all that has to do with food, takes the issue of feeding of infants very important. This begins with breastfeeding.
Breastfeeding is supposed to be normal for a child. We were breastfed for more than 2.5 years, my own generation. And some of the illnesses that are afflicting the younger generations are not afflicting us. Of course, other illnesses may come in because of one factor or the other. But we were breastfed because our parents know that it is primary responsibility to give that child a good start in life. Breast milk comes with a lot of immune factors that could prevent illnesses in the future. Again, a child can be ill. Malaria, if a child is bitten by mosquito, the child can have malaria, things like that. But in terms of making sure that the foundation is good, it is breast milk. Our parents were mostly agrarian, at least my own generation, which means they can do breastfeeding at any time. But now that we are young, the younger generations have to go to work, they can still breastfeed. My own children breastfeed their children, despite the fact they are working. Because you can still pump the milk and put in a bottle. Take it to daycare. This is reality. Not many parents are staying at home again. Unlike our own parents that are agrarian, they go to the farm, but the child is always there with them. But the most important thing is to focus on the milk. So long as that child gets the milk, the breast milk, the best thing is to, of course, breastfeed. If you're at home, there are some parents that don't work or that have kiosks in front of their houses and whatnot. They can breastfeed very well. If you come back from work, you can breastfeed. But if you are not there, the first thing is not formula. It's expressed milk from the breast. And why is that so important? I've said it. We are laying a good foundation in terms of the health of that child. So it shouldn't be a problem. Our parents have something that they were handed over to by the other ancestors and so on. But somehow we don't seem to understand that breast milk is the best. Does that mean that a child cannot be given a bottle? If the mother is very ill, there is nothing you can do. But these are all exceptions. It's not the rule, So unless the mother is very, very ill, then an alternative can be given. But this is an exception, not the rule. Somehow I don't know why it has become so difficult for young mothers to think of alternative. If it is cosmetics, God didn't give us a breast for cosmetic sake. It is so that our own children can be healthy. So if somebody is thinking cosmetics, think of holistic approach.
However, in aligning with current realities where nursing mothers are not always on ground to breastfeed their babies, parents have to resort to other methods of storing breast milk, as well as other highly nutritive infant food that serve as substitutes for breast milk. Then, there has to be proper regulation on infant food being manufactured and how such are marketed. It was against this background that the Food Safety and Applied Nutrition Directorate organized a stakeholders engagement with members of the Association of Infant Food Manufacturers and Marketers in Nigeria on the implementation of the International Code of Marketing of Breast Milk Substitutes. While delivering the opening remarks on behalf of the chief host, the DG of NAFDAC, Professor Mojisola Adeyeye, the Director of the Food Safety and Applied Nutrition Directorate, who represented the DG, said the engagement was aimed at fostering fruitful dialogue on the implementation of the International Code of Marketing of Breast Milk Substitutes and the national regulations on infant and young children's food and other designated products. She also emphasized on the importance of breastfeeding.
The International Code of Marketing of Breast Milk Substitutes, including the subsequent relevant World Health Assembly resolutions, aim to contribute to the provision of safe and adequate nutrition for infants by the protection of breastfeeding and by ensuring the proper use of breast milk substitutes when they are necessary, on the basis of adequate information and through appropriate marketing and distribution. We cannot overemphasize the significance of breastfeeding in the context of maternal and child health. Recognizing the irreplaceable impact of breastfeeding on the health and development of infants and young children all over the world, and for the purpose of our engagement today, our infants and young children in Nigeria, NAFDAC remains resolutely committed to implementing and monitoring adherence to the provisions of the Code as the agency designated by law for this responsibility in the Amendment Decree Number 22, the Marketing Breast Milk Substitutes of 1999. This responsibility for monitoring and enforcing compliance with the provisions of the Code and national regulations covers the spectrum of actors in the infant and young child feeding space, and of course their actions. And these include manufacturers, representatives of manufacturers, distributors, marketers, and other stakeholders. You will recall that the 69th World Health Assembly, which held in the year 2016, adopted Resolution 69.9, which urged member states and health professionals to implement the recommendations in the accompanying WHO, that's World Health Organization guidance on ending the inappropriate promotion of foods for infants and young children. The guidance seeks to ensure that financial support for infant and young child health programs and workers do not create conflicts of interest. He states that companies that market foods for infants and young children should not sponsor meetings of health professionals and scientific meetings. Thus, health systems and health professional associations should not allow such sponsorship. The guidance also notes that health professionals and facilities are often targeted and influenced by the infant and young child food industry through promotion, relationships, and incentives, and that these incentives create conflicts of interest and can result in the loss of independence, integrity, and public credibility.
The director of FSAN Directorate also pointed out the complementary responsibilities of NAFDAC as regulator and that of the manufacturers and marketers of infant foods.
As regulators, we welcome the development of the guidance document, having dealt with issues of digital promotions of breast milk substitutes ourselves. As manufacturers, representatives of manufacturers and marketers, you are aware of your responsibility to align your practices with the provisions of the International Code of Marketing of Breast Milk Substitutes and the national regulations, recognizing that inappropriate promotion of these products have a significant impact on infant health, on their nutrition and development. NAFDAC is fully committed to protecting and promoting breastfeeding to address threats that marketing of breast milk substitutes pose to optimal breastfeeding practices.
In her speech at the open dialogue session, the President, Association of Infant Food Manufacturers and Marketers in Nigeria, Mrs. Mopelola Olaiya, expressed her appreciation to NAFDAC for initiating the meeting.
I would like to thank you for the opportunity to discuss on the implementation of the WHO code in Nigeria as we explore opportunities to clarify maybe some previous birth and together having a compliant environment focused on supporting and protecting breastfeeding and ensuring the proper use of breast milk substitutes when they are necessary. Thank you very much for having us here and happy day.
Mrs. Chinyere Ejiofor of the FSAN Directorate delivered a presentation on national implementation of the International Code of Marketing of Breast Milk Substitute, giving the necessity of breast milk, an overview of the code, conflict of interest, and digital marketing. Then deliberations and a question and answer session followed before the meeting was brought to a close.
NAFDAC and Your Health continues after the short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You are still watching NAFDAC and Your Health.
Drug abuse is one endemic menace that NAFDAC has relentlessly faced head-on to curtail over time because of the potential risks the phenomenon poses to both young and old in the society. Even though the fight has been a tough one, NAFDAC is also resolute not to rest on its oars to combat this menace and rid the Nigerian society of its risks.
If the doctor tells me, take this one twice a day, and I take 3 twice a day, I'm killing myself. That's misuse of drugs. Abuse of drug is when, let's take Valium. Many people use Valium, but many people abuse Valium, especially in this country. If the doctor prescribes it and says once or every night or whatever for 2 weeks because of the situation, and you make it a pattern, that is abuse of drug. But there are some drugs that work directly on the central nervous system, narcotics. When such drugs are used with intent to either have more strength or to have altered state of mind, that is abuse. And once, instead of carrying 10 boxes per hour, maybe you are working at the airport or whatever, now you think you can carry 100 boxes per hour. You are still the same human being. That drug is doing something that it's not supposed to do. Or if it alters the state and you start feeling you are on top of the world, you can kill. You can drive and have accidents. Some of the terrorism in different countries are linked to abuse of drug. Because when somebody has taken a drug and alters the mind, the person can kill anybody, can bomb somebody, can bomb themselves, because they are in an altered state of mind. They are not who they're supposed to be. That is why my first 2 quarters, or maybe 3 quarters, in my first term, I spent on 2018 running after tramadol and codeine. Our children were going mad. Women were selling cough syrup with codeine. Containers of tramadol were being, rained on Nigeria. And I was shocked. I was scared. Has somebody destined us to perish? NAFDAC
and the Port Inspection Directorate started keeping vigil at the ports.
For NAFDAC and other stakeholders fighting against the misuse and abuse of drugs and controlled substances, drugs should not be abused or misused, and narcotics should be used only for medical and scientific purposes. It was in a bid to further assert this stance and chart courses that will help in the fight to bring the abuse under maximum control that the Drug Demand Reduction Division of the Narcotics and Controlled Substance Directorate of NAFDAC recently organized a stakeholders engagement to deliberate on the issues of drug abuse and ways to further bring the menace under control. The Director, Narcotics and Controlled Substance Directorate, Mrs. Yeduni Adenuga, was represented at the gathering by Mrs. Uloma Ashemoha, a Deputy Director in the Directorate.
The agency, NAFDAC, even in our own mandate, specifies that we undertake measures to ensure that narcotic drugs and controlled substances are available for medical and scientific use, and limit their diversion to illicit use or abuse. And the reason why all these laws were put in place is because these substances have a very high abuse potential. And then once they leave the right chain, the right distribution chain, where they are going into is abuse. And that is why we are all here. No matter how strict we are in other aspects of our job, in issuing of permits, in going about the other regulatory activities, it is inevitable that some products will fall outside that net and then they move into abuse. And then anything, once it gets into that situation, we understand that it's a common and a shared responsibility. And that's why we have come together today to learn from other people's experiences. And also to help us, from the information we gather today, to also help us chart a better course in our own activities of drug abuse. These days, when you go for programs, you keep hearing them say things like evidence-based. And without hearing from others and sharing other experiences, we may just keep doing things the way we have been doing them over the years and may get minimal results or less results than are to be expected from the input.
These stakeholders present at the engagement include NDLEA, people from the medical profession, and representatives of NGOs. The stakeholders took turns to address salient issues bordering on combating drug abuse.
It is pathetic to know that issues that are going on now is so bad, the mental health is affected, everything about the society is upside down. But there is hope. There is what? There is hope. Where there is a will, there will be a way. And I'm not disappointed because since we started August 2013, that's how many years now? 11 years. I never turned back. It was difficult initially, but the terrain is hopeful. Prevention is better than what? Cure. What the elders say, they say prevention is better than cure. We have been able to do some sizable amount of prevention through school awareness group. We have been going from school to school. We started from the universities and moved into secondary schools. And recently we felt we have to go to the primary school. So when we go there do the awareness program, synthesize them of the detrimental effects on substance abuse, we also show examples why it is no-go area. The university will form clubs like ambassadors to be able to talk to their friends, their colleagues. And it has been fruitful because we cannot reach all the students in there to do drug awareness campaign too. And if we all come together, it will be such a wonderful movement. We also do community awareness, and we go around, like our program that some of us were one of those that the NDLA were with us.
The issue at hand is a very deadly, dicey, and global menace that affects each and every one of us. So let us just put aside who is taking credit. Let us see something work. Let us put our heads together and find a solution. Prince mentioned something like that. He said, we have been talking. And I agree with him. Talk is cheap. Presentation, grammatical competence, and so on and so forth. So the devastating consequences of substance abuse and the graduated level of addiction underscores the urgent need for effective preventive measures.
So for that say, we are dealing with drug abuse, NDLA, NAFDAC, the Ministry of Health, psychiatric hospitals, NGOs. Everybody's just doing, they are doing their own corner, and there's a lack of synergy among us. I think that is very, very important and that we must take note of. And then, following that is also an issue of cooperation, because sometimes there are some cases that will need the cooperation of other agencies. Like there are cases that will need the police, that will need other agencies to get involved. And I think that we need to look at that. Even sometimes we have cases that requires medical attention. Some of our patients we have to take them to NIMA because some of them come up with a medical problem. So we need more coordination in this regard.
This is how far we can go on this edition of NAFDAC and Your Health. We'll be back again, same time, same station next week with another informative package. If you have information, complaints, or questions, we'll be glad to listen to them.
You can reach NAFDAC via toll-free numbers. For inquiries, call 0700 162 3322. For complaints, call 0800 162 3322. You may also email NAFDAC at nafdac.gov.ng. If you have complaints about any form of misconduct, you can reach the Reforms Unit via email reforms@nafdac.gov.ng or call the Reforms hotlines on 0909 763 0506 or 0909 763 0507. NAFDAC, customer focused, agency minded.
Importing, producing, distributing, marketing, advertising and selling of unwholesome food products, drugs, cosmetics and medical equipment are all criminal acts that put the health of the nation in danger. Do not engage in this act so we can have a healthy nation. Till we come your way again next week, stay safe.